Welcome, everybody. This is Fausto from the Cyber Traders, and I have a really good special guest today that I'm really looking forward to having it back. Hima, very good friend of mine. I've been knowing her for over, probably got to be at least a decade, right? A long
Yeah,
time ago.
that's zip code.
Been a while, been a while. And she used to live in my neighborhood, but she decided to leave me here, stranded as usual, But Hima, it's great to see you. Well, nice to see you. Great to have you on the show, on the podcast. How's things going?
Oh, it's great. Thanks, Fausto, for having me. It was good to see you in person after so long,
I
like a
know,
month or
I
two
know.
ago.
I know we
Yeah,
left that really nice weather in Florida, and then we came back and it's freezing where it was. It came to
I
like
know, it's
10
crazy.
degrees.
Well, that was way worse for you coming from New York. I just came from Texas, so I was like, all right, I'll go back to warm weather. I'm good for a few days.
Where in Texas you live again? What
So I'm
part of
in
Texas?
Austin.
You in Austin?
Yeah, yeah.
Ah, I
I've been
like
wanting to
Austin.
live here for a long time, actually, but we were in all these other cities for my husband's career, and then, he was like not really, feeling any of those places, and I was like, please, please, can we move to Austin? And he moved here sight unseen with me like 4 years ago now.
Yeah, Austin's a really cool town. I stay. Last time I was there for the F1 Grand Prix. Did you ever go to the Formula One Grand Prix
Oh,
there?
nice. No, I know that goes on here, but I haven't been.
How
Yeah,
could you not go see it? That was awesome. I mean,
car racing's not exactly my
I know
thing, but I can see how it's
you got to
appealing.
have a
Yeah,
little
so you came for
sports
that.
in you. Yeah, no, it was good. And then the food is just great. Really cool shops. I remember
Mhm.
a lot of cool you have those food truck areas.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So definitely a cool town. But
yeah.
anyway, Heba, so tell me a little bit about you. So what's been going on with your trading? What the hell's going? Market's crashing. People asking me, is it bottom? Is it bottom? I just got my hair done yesterday. My hairdresser is a huge trader, telling me, he's he Mr. Gossip. You know what I mean? So,
Right, right.
and he's telling me like what these people are in and out of it. But what do you see? What's going on?
Yeah, no, I agree. It's been a little wild. I was actually on a presentation a couple weeks ago where right where we were talking, it was February 28th. I was like, look, there's this like band of support. And if we don't hold this, it's going to be some pain. And I don't know for how long. But I think that what's going on now is probably just a combination of big few things, right? Like the tariffs. Obviously, everybody knows about that. And
Hmm.
not so much just the existence of tariffs, but I think a little bit of the back and forth, a little bit of the different relationships with different countries. And it's not meant to be simple. So it's going to have those ups and downs. But the other thing I think is coming into play is like the other things that people are waiting for, right? Like the tax bill. Like supposedly we're going to get this amazing tax bill. We're going to drill, baby, drill. Like, will that help oil prices go lower and then inflation finally slow down? So I feel like we're just in the mix of like all those things working themselves out. And because, people, the market doesn't like uncertainty, even when you're fixing things, they're freaking out. I mean, that's my
Hmm.
take on it. This is more like oh no, things are getting shaken up. I don't know what you think. I'd love to hear.
Well, listen, I mean, it's not what I think. I mean, I know. I mean, I will share my thoughts, but
Yeah.
like, tell people a little bit about you. Like, what makes you listen? Now you're not were part of that whole fund and everything else. I know you could tell everybody what you feel, but like, tell a little bit about yourself. Like, tell me who you are, where you came
Okay.
from, and why are you a teacher now? Why are you a guru? What made
Oh
you get here?
boy. How long do you have? No, just kidding.
Nah, you got about 2 minutes.
So, okay, so
We
let's
got a
go
lot to
back.
cover here, but
Let's go back for the when I even came into all this. I was a teenager in Long Island, like you once were too. And
you
I
still think
went
I'm
to
a
ask my
teenager.
dad for science homework help. I was like 16 and it was chemistry and he was a doctor. So he really knew chemistry well. I go ask him for this homework help and he's in his study looking at something crazy in his computer. And this is the mid 90s. So this is
Uh-huh,
a long time ago.
uh-huh.
And I was like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm trading. I was like, what's that mean? You don't have the TV on. You don't have a newspaper out. How do you know what's going on with stocks and stuff? He said, I don't need to. I'm using math and probability to know where to buy and sell. And I was like, oh, are you any good? He's like, I'm all right. I'm his teenage kid. He didn't want to reveal too much, but that's it, Fausto. I was like sold. I was like, you can use math to make money. That's just so cool. So I started looking at charts first. Like most people, right? They get the fundamental side, the earnings and all that. I didn't see any of
Mhm.
that until I went to college. So I go get a finance degree at Indiana University and I don't see a lick of charts, not a one. So I graduate and my parents are like, so where's your new job? I'm like, oh, I didn't get one. I didn't want to learn trading from dad. And they were like, okay. So I worked part-time in all these weird places, Starbucks, teaching SAT, like orchestra, like anything I could do to like just kind of pay for my way, but learn from my dad in the evenings. And I continued on, got the CMT and then got a job on Wall Street and, did all that Wall Street stuff for like 10 years. And then when my dad, he passed very suddenly, this was what, 10 years ago, I was like, you know what? I want to do what I truly desire, which is not just help companies get richer. I mean, that's a great gig.
Right.
I want to do what I've always done, which is teach. Like I always had a teaching thing in me. I taught dance. I'm the oldest sibling of 4, so I knew how to like give instructions, right? And so I just came back and combined the two while still like trading futures and helping manage stuff for my mom and everything else. And so um, I feel very blessed that I can combine my love of the markets. Like I just think this is so fascinating day to day with
Okay.
of teaching and being able to like make it less lonely, you know, because trading is a very like hermit-like thing we do. And having students and being able to like talk through what's going on makes it a little bit more, I don't know, it has like the human side to it.
So, working off Wall Street, you know, and I always tell everyone, you learn so much being on the, you know, working here on Wall Street, and now you turn into the Main Street part about it. What got you into the Main Street, you know, and now and how did you get to where you are today?
All right. So I hope none of my former bosses are listening because I might get in a little trouble, but no, nothing secretive. Let me
You're
tell
not
you
registered
this.
anymore, right?
Huh?
You're not registered anymore.
No, I'm not
Oh,
restricted.
you're
I'm
good. You're
good.
good.
I can say and do what I need.
You
Yeah.
can say what you want.
So here's the thing on Wall Street, I get it. They have such large firms. We have so many, you know, clients to serve. So we need a lot of standards in our trading, right? Like standard indicators, standard settings. And sometimes they just don't work well. Like they're not designed for every market condition. And I remember there was a time where I wrote a report that was going to go to the London desk that was literally going to point to the fact that rates were going to invert. And they did, right? But
Mm-hmm.
nobody believed my report and they wouldn't let me publish it. And I was like, I would have warned a lot of people. And then it happened again and again because they just were like, no, you have to stay in this box. So again, I understand the reasons, but it was very limiting when you see things, especially, you know, with my GAN background. My dad was big on GAN and his training, and like I had all of that in the peripheral and I couldn't use it on Wall Street. So that was one thing. The second is, you know, you don't get really intraday. You don't get to the short-term stuff. Everyone's just thinking about months out and years out, but there's so much opportunity in the short term. I think you've talked about this too, how like the market doesn't have to be in giant moves for people to make
Mm-hmm.
money, right? If they
Right.
know what to do with the intraday. So I like the day trading approach where you go in, you get what you need to get out, and you don't have to be like losing sleep over everything going on at night or globally. Of course, swing trading is great for people who do that if that's what they choose, but day trading has that benefit of like removing that exposure, I would say.
You've
So
done so many speakings, and you know what? I always get, and you know, listen, we always deal with bad actors and or people just in general, like, are so anti day trading. You know what I mean? Like, and I mean, I have what the way I tell them the reason why, but like when someone tells you, you tell them you're a day trader, like sometimes almost like a bad word. It's
yeah.
like, you know, people like I go, oh, you're a day trader, you're gonna lose all your money. Like, what do you tell people that, like, you know, that who want to get into day trading, and what really is day trading? Because I don't think people understand what the concept of day trading is, which I'm just letting everybody know. It's day trade. You're in and out the same day. You hold it
Yep.
overnight, you're not a day trader or a swing trader, and they confuse the two. But how would you approach someone to tell them why they should day trade?
Sure. Well, I do think there's like, you know, an avenue for each person. Like it's not like day trading's for everyone under the sun. Uh if you don't have the time to dedicate that morning preparation, whatever it is, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, if you don't prepare and you just like turn on the markets and start trading at 9:30 Eastern,
Uh-huh.
I don't think that's going to work. You got to like have a game plan. You have to be able to follow a simple trading strategy. It doesn't have to be any particular rules. It just has to be rules you've really like practiced and gotten to. And you have to be able to sit there and deal with the market for at least 30 minutes or an hour, right? You don't have to day
Right.
trade all day. You just got
Right.
to have that commitment. So that's the first thing. If you can't carve out a certain time of day, multiple times a week to trade, day trading won't work. But if you can do that, then all the rest of it to me is the same as swing trading. Same charts, same indicators, same concepts. And the main way I think that you get successful is by getting a simple strategy that you're comfortable with, not just something somebody gives you. Like you have to see the patterns or see the movement and you practice it to a point. You can't like paper trade forever, right? So I tell people get like 20 to 40 trades in, practice before you take your live money in. That way you have some level of confidence it's going to work. And then again, you measure it again, do 20, 30, 50 trades, measure where you're at. If you're not making money, then reevaluate and just keep iterating like that. That's what I would say to somebody who's kind of like just wanting to consider getting into it.
And how long you been in this field of education wise now after being into trading?
Oh, wow. I did my first like online training in 2017. So like being on the web, if you will, but I actually wrote a book as like a trading educator in 2012. So I was published by Financial Times Press with a trade book, like smaller book on GAN, and it was kind of like for the modern trader. And I was still working on Wall Street when that all happened. So had I not published that book, nobody would have known who I am versus like any other analyst, you know. And then people came to me and were like, "Hey, can you teach me how you're doing what's in the book with like more hands-on? Can you apply it to the markets and so forth?" So I would say I'm officially been an educator in this space since 2016, 2017, but like I've been an educator my whole life. Like I've always just loved to do
Well,
that.
the reason why I bring that up is that because you know, I love teaching people. I mean, I know you love teaching people too. You do a great job. I've trained a lot of students. I've been your students also, because great people never stop learning. And one thing that I've always learned is that, you learn, you got to be a good listener. And, when it comes to teaching everyone here how to trade properly, what have you found, which I think a lot of people here need to understand, because there's some people that have not been educated. What is the most popular challenge that you find that new traders have that you have to kind of explain to them what not to do? You know what I mean? Like, like mistakes that they make. It's a popular mistake, and they'll continue to do it unless they, don't do it this way.
Right.
I know what you're gonna say, but I want to hear from your mouth before everybody else here, because I say it
Oh,
all the time.
interesting. I wish we had some sort of note cards where you could like write your guess and then reveal
We have
it.
ESP.
We'll just trust you on it. Okay. So I would say probably over trading. Like that can be multiple things. You make a winning trade, you think you're Superman, and then you just keep trading and you give it all back, and then you beat yourself up. Or you have a losing trade, and then you are mentally not able to accept the risk of what you lost. So then you make trades you shouldn't, and then you just make your pile of losses worse. So like it's this need to constantly make up for whatever just happened or add to it, instead of being like, you know what, the market's not going anywhere. Like my dad said this a million times in such a good messaging, right? He's like, Hima, the market is never going to go away, right? The ways we trade and what we trade. Sorry?
It's not going out of business, I tell them.
No, it's not going out of business. And he's like, not because of us, speculators, but because of the industry, because of all the institutional participation. Like this is real stuff. So if you are not like in the right mindset, or if you are not able to prepare properly that day, or if you don't see your setups that day, like why are you trading? I see that a lot with beginners. I don't know if that's the answer you were expecting, but I'd love to hear either way.
It's one of several that is exactly what I'm saying. I mean, the first thing I always tell them is like, who taught you? like you're using what led me to what you're saying is like, you keep bringing up your dad. You had a mentor. You had your dad. Your dad was good at it. He worked on it, But there's, what I always find that you have to surround yourself with good traders, like, listen, you took a job in an industry, you didn't try to figure out your own. You knew you had to learn a little. You took what you learned and you ran with it. And that's basically what people here have to hear, is that you just can't go out there and think you just turn on a computer, and be like us, that back then we had to get registered. We had to get licensed. We had to, but like, listen, everybody has to understand it. Nobody works for free, right? If we were telling them.
I think you're right. Like they don't invest in education. Like I use this in my coaching and stuff. I'll say like, listen, if you were to open an ice cream store, would you just like buy a bunch of ice cream from, Costco, go put it in your shop and start selling? No, you have a business plan. You have some idea of how long you want to take before you get profitable. You learn about how you need to store the stuff, right? Nobody does that with trading in the beginning. Like very few people. That's what I find challenging.
Well, I got something better than that. How about you own the store and then you just hire people off the street and says, okay, here, just start making me ice cream. I'll be back at 5 o'clock to close the door. How's that going to work out? Not exactly. Anything. You know what I mean?
Have robots serve it. Like bot trading has its place. I mean, there's all these things, but I think a lot of them present themselves as like, you don't have to do anything except give me your credit card and you're going to make all this money. And
Yeah,
that's
let me ask you a
the
question
danger.
about that. Like, I mean, that's another thing that people asking me. They're like, "What about like AI trading and bot trading?" Like, I'm worried about that. Like, listen, I tell everybody, AI's been around for almost.
Yes.
We had the one of the top AI developers from Microsoft that was on my podcast,
Wow.
and AJ was great. I met him down in Florida for a big conference, and I didn't even know this, but it kind of made sense. AI's been around for 60 years. It's just now it's starting to take off a little bit more.
60.
I mean, listen, if you remember the movie War Games, I mean, that was an AI platform,
Yeah.
but everyone's always now everybody's getting involved, like, do I invest into these AI like automatic algorithms and stuff like that? I mean, have you encountered anyone mentioning you about that stuff, or
Oh
and
yeah,
what is
all
your
the time.
what
So,
is your thoughts on that?
you know, it's going to sound like a very political answer, but the thing is, they're all different. So they're not like all bots are the same. I would say you have to kind of vet it and see. The thing is, I think it's a falsehood to think that whether it's old school, like automated trading, right? Like you turn the indicator on, you let it pick the signals. You still can't just like go take a nap while that's running. I don't think you need to
Right.
pay attention. I mean, even basics, like you might like lose your internet connection and then be stuck in a crappy trade. Like these things happen to me and I'm staring at the chart and I'm like, oh
Right.
crap, internet went out. What do I do? Right. I have my trade station number right here. I mean, you got to be prepared to deal with those situations. But for the actual bots, I think they're very new. So I think they could get better over time. But I think it's like, I think it was like 2023, right? AI just like started late 2023 really coming out. And then in trading last year, it was like everywhere. Think about that, right? It's like if everyone's trying to sell you that, it's because it's hot and popular, not necessarily because it's like the best thing. That's just my initial opinion.
Well,
It could work, but it needs time, I think, to get better.
I kind of tell everybody I was dealing with bots. It's called the black boxes. I don't know if you
Yeah.
remember back, they had black
Yeah.
boxes, and they had these people, these engineers built these algorithms that will go out there and do this, 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 and this. And I had very big connections with a lot of these brokerage firms, and because I helped develop a lot of them. And one of the developers came up to me, goes, "Hey, Fausto, I got this new engineer. He's got this new black box. It's gonna work for like 2 days, so we're gonna trade it." But they don't realize that there are boxes out there like like Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, that find these bots, and they're smart learning, and
Yep.
they know what they're doing. They do the opposite, and they screw them all up. So so getting back to the AI, like remember, there's going to be good AIs, there's going to be bad AIs. You know what I mean? There's going to be the Terminator, and there's going to be the non-Terminator. Yeah,
I think just like with anything else, like a black box, a person would need to try it in like a simulated mode, give it a
right,
chance, right? And if there is any human involvement in the decision, I mean, some of these are fully saying like, you press a button and we're going to just make you money, right? But some, I think it's more like, oh, the AI will tell you the setup and then you can choose to take it. There's some variations, but on any of those, I just think you have to not back test. So back testing has its place, but back testing doesn't count for human emotion. Like that's the problem with it as a sole, indicator of whether something will work. So if you get something that's well back tested, AI or not, great. But then test it going forward. Like you have to be willing to experiment for a bit, not just trust everything out of the gate. I think folks are so eager to get started, and I get that passion, but it's just like we're talking about ice cream shop or anything else. Like you got to learn what you're doing first and practice and get the groundwork out.
well, listen, I mean, I don't know about you, but I get emailed from people all the time. I know if they wrote the email or not.
Oh,
Okay, you could see it's an AI writing. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
I'm like, I don't know how AI starts. It goes, "Hey, how you doing?" You know what I mean? Like it's almost the same line every time.
Mhm.
So you don't think that there's other algorithms people are going to realize one thing that AI can't replace? Everyone has to understand, even with trading,
Yep.
it has no feelings, it has no emotion, so it doesn't know and feel like what it's a little bit out of the weather. It's getting a little crazy, but and I want to point that out because I want anyone here to get suckered into part of that. But getting back to your style,
Sure.
because now we understand everyone here because I get that asked all the time regarding AI. I know you've been around with me, and we've done so many events together. We've hosted so many events so many times. Everyone has their own style.
Yeah.
And I know you introduced so many styles. What is the style that you found that worked for you that kind of helped the people that are listening right now that might work within their style and styles that you will probably stay away from?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say in terms of my style, I'm like a pattern seeking trader. I mean, that's pretty generic, right? But let's just like rein it in from there. What patterns I'm looking for, I'm pulling from 3 categories of like all the data out there. So there's lots of things people look at. They can look at sentiment, they can look at volume, right? So the sentiment is like, is the market feeling bullish or bearish? Volume is like how much is actually being traded. And there's so many things. I tell people I have a trifecta. I'm like, that's it, my little triangle. So price action, so the actual candlesticks or bars, that's number 1. Like, I don't care what's going on wherever else. That to me is like the instant moment of supply and demand in whatever you're trading, right? So follow the price action first. Then the thing that I noticed is most traders and a lot of educators too, they kind of ignore the time axis of the chart. They just
I don't
pay
understand
attention,
that. I don't
right?
get that.
They don't forecast. They don't look at the time between moves. It's completely ignored. So I tell people stop ignoring the bottom axis of your chart, and I teach how I forecast. So there's some GAN inspired techniques, but actually a lot of it's from another person who I came across who like literally his like life's work on forecasting was about to like leave with him, and nobody in his family was interested and you doing it after he passed or anything. And I was like, I want to keep teaching your stuff. And so he licensed it to me and sold it to me, and I turned it into all my techniques. I just renamed them and stuff, but I'm like, I expanded so much on what he did. And people who published his original book saw what I did and said, oh, you took his stuff and you like 100x'd it because you made it successful for day traders. You made it easier visually to do. So there are forecasts that I've been sharing for the past few weeks that are coming into play now, mostly for a potential bottom. I'm just going to air quote it. We don't know yet, but like we're in the vicinity of at least a short-term potential bottom, but we got to see. So price action, market timing, and then the third angle is momentum.
Well,
I love
why don't
RSI.
Hima, you want to do? I want to share your charts because
Okay, for sure.
maybe you could explain to everybody a little bit more of exactly what we're looking at here.
Yeah.
And and kind of pointed out exactly what that style is, so people can see it. So I got your screen. We got your chart up running right here. We got the Trade Station platform. Looks great.
Okay, great.
See what's going on.
So this is by default my E-mini S&P 500 futures. That's what I trade. That's what I learned on. That's my happy place. And so this is just a daily chart where I've got the candlesticks. I've got my RSI power zones. So that's my third leg here is momentum. I feel it's very important to pay attention to the speed behind the price action. Like there's an energy behind it basically. And if you kind of see that slowing before the top comes, you can be ready and vice versa. So we were in this band, right, for like months. This was the pre-election day low. This was the December 6th high. We were just like constantly in this range. And then we started to break down. But if I apply forecasting, and I think I have this on a SPY chart, we are in the vicinity for the market to pause. Now, again, this is not a guarantee we make a bottom, but I've been eyeing trading down on the SPY to this 558 area for weeks because of forecasting. So that's the cool thing is forecasting doesn't just say, oh, here's a support, here's a resistance, right? Price floor, price ceiling. It gives you an idea of when it might get there. Same thing on NVIDIA. This one, I made this call the day of earnings, which is a little bold for people, but it's playing out. So back on February 26th, this candle right here, they released earnings. And I was like, this is what the chart looked like. And I said, hey, I don't think that we're going to continue higher. I think this downtrend is still in place from early in the year. And I gave a target down around 103 to be met by, I think, March 13th. And we were a day early, 2 days early. So these things don't always work exact. But the cool thing about forecasting the way I use it, I also have a backup plan for when the forecasts miss, meaning they hit early, they hit late, they don't reach the price target all the way, or they overshoot it a little bit. So that's what I kind of combine together. So again, the price action, candlesticks, classic patterns, market timing, I should say, by considering the bottom axis, and then RSI power zones, which is really just a momentum indicator that kind of uses its whole range instead of being just stuck between one overbought level and one oversold level. That's like if I could keep going, obviously, but that's like my intro level of like how I look at the markets and how I trade.
Do you ever get anybody to ask you, what is that? How do you read a candlestick?
When you say, how do you read a candlestick? What do you mean when they ask you?
Some people, then whenever I come up to you and say like, okay, what is a candlestick? How does it actually grow? Or what is that? What exactly is a candlestick?
They don't really ask that. I think I tend to like attract more experienced traders. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just because like the name of my stuff,
Okay.
but I do take the time to explain why this is even forming. Like basically, these are like little battles between buyers and sellers, and every session, right? One person's winning, but how much they win by is what tells you. Like, here you can see, okay, bulls won. It was green, but it was just a small range. This giant red candle, bears won, and they won hard, right? So it has more weight to it. So I do then go and expound and say, a little bit of like what's feeding into the candle, but what's more important is not what's making the candle, it's how to use it right
Right.
after it forms, in my view. So,
Because you know what, like what reason why I bring that up is that I had to actually do a class on that because we
oh, really?
assume that some people think they know what is like they don't understand what the wick is and the length and the
Oh,
open,
gotcha.
high, low
Yes.
close, and that's the reason why. And like because we have a gentleman, Chila, that's on YouTube right now. It's asking a question because it leads into this. He said, "Does Hima do you use MACDs for momentum?"
Okay. Yes, I have used a MACD. I currently just use this one indicator. Like I literally have no other indicators in my chart, but the MACD and stochastics are also some pretty solid momentum indicators. I personally found that if you are using one momentum indicator, you don't really need a bunch of others. They're all designed to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like this was another one of my issues on Wall Street. So I wrote a report and they were like, you have to say, well, the R sign, the MACD, and the stochastics are all moving up. I'm like, yeah, but they're supposed to. That's not news. That's not really adding more to my case. And they did not like that. And I was like, I don't feel like that's adding extra value. You know what I'm saying? And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, I have used MACD. I completely understand how it works, the crosses, the above and below the zero line. But I just kind of got whittled down to one indicator because I like simple charts. So everyone should just pick what works for them or what resonates with them and only add other stuff if it's adding new information. I would love to know what you think about that because I just feel like people clutter their charts and they can't even see stuff anymore.
Well, I was going to bring that up. That's my question I was going to ask you. Like, because here we are just understanding. This is why I bring this up the candlestick. I mean, here you're looking, your charts are very clean. You're very pretty, very self-explanatory. And I think people have to understand what the hell that wick means. Now, all of a sudden, you have somebody ask me, oh, what about the MACD? What about the SMA? What about the RSI? What about the Schenken? What about this? And then what the 200 moving average? And then what about that? When is it technical analysis become paralysis in your eyes when you see someone's chart?
So I've had the experience of having people that I like work with in a small group or one-on-one. And so they're sharing their screen, right? It's not just like them seeing my stuff all the time. And the first thing I do when I walk through with them and like help them figure out where their trading's at, I point and I'm like, do you use that indicator? And they say yes or no. And if they say no, I ask, well, why is it on your chart still? Oh, I bought it. Or
that's what.
Or, somebody in this trading room said to use it. I'm like, yeah, but if you're not using it, that's just like clutter in your house. Like use it or put it away. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then we just peel back to what they're really using so then they can see it better. So I don't, some people can handle multiple indicators, multiple moving averages. I've always preferred, I clean my charts constantly. I'm a little extreme on that. I don't clean my house the way I clean my charts. I'm much more of a chart cleaner. But yeah, I think a person can tell themselves, look, I no longer can get the data I need. That means you're too cluttered. As long as you can pull out your setups, you're good. Add whatever you want. But I think that depends on each person's eye, right? Some of us can handle all that data and some of us just need it like more streamlined.
Oh yeah, let's look like a bunch of spaghetti. I always joke around with people all the time. I said, okay, look at your chart right now, how clean it is, and I'm like, you know what? Look, and then all of a sudden, let me slap on everything on there. I mean, you could see the support, you could see a resistance, you can understand the way you can explain it. But when you start adding all this other stuff, it just gets crazy.
Well,
So everybody out there,
so this is just like a generic chart. This isn't like me trading this. Like the chart I prepared for if I was going to trade this morning looks like this, but it's still relatively clean in that it's got resistance. Those are the blue lines. It's got support. Those are the pink lines. And I am a big fan of when you use a indicator, you physically with your hand or on the screen label the peaks and troughs. It gets you understanding it better. Ralph Akampora was who I got to study for the CMT from and learn from. And he's obviously still around and great teacher. And he's like, you kids with your computers, we used to write out moving average levels and RSI levels every day in the 70s and 60s before all these computers were around. That's how you got like a feel for the market, right? So I do this every morning. It just takes me, for me, it takes me 20 minutes maybe. And that's as cluttered as my charts get. So like, I just wanted to, make sure you saw like the back closet, not just like the front room.
Well, that's great.
My
Well,
wife would know, right? There's the back closet that doesn't get cleaned as often, but there's the front room that's always
yeah,
orderly.
no, listen, I had people that I've done presentation. I've done, just like you have done, been in a lot of the expos, and people like they come in there look like, yeah, they think they're going to see this whole fancy thing, and it's just like, just like Michaela just mentioned, just keep the KISS method, keep it super simple. That's basically the model. I mean, you use the word
Yes.
stupid, but that's an
Yeah.
engineer's line. But I use the word simple. But Hima, I want to get want to get a little bit more. Now we know a little bit more your style. Let's talk about the market.
Yeah.
Okay, let's look over a market. So I know you're a little bit more of an analyst. I know you've been trading for a while. You're seeing what's going on. What are you expecting that's going on? I mean, I love that we have a new presidency, because not because I like the president or hate the president. It just caused a lot of volatility.
Yes.
What's very unique about this president is that he's super extreme in a way that what he says he does. So now everyone like, he's just saying it. He's in office. He'll blow it off. No, he actually is executing what he's doing, and it is causing a lot of volatility. Like I know a lot of people here. So it happened with Tesla, big run up, big crash down, Nvidia, there's a lot of things. So what have you been focusing on? What kind of, not just your indicators, but like what stocks or, basket or ETFs that we should be focusing on in the future and be aware of, on what to expect going into this market? I know we have the Fed's meeting next week. We don't know if they're going to lower interest rates or whatever. I mean, I'd love to hear your opinion on that, but what do you see what's going on?
So, I mean, I always am open to answering questions from people about specific markets, but I am such a futures trader that I really look at the ES, the SPY, and the VIX. That's all I look at every day. Of course, I'm curious about stocks. And because I have a lot of traders who trade NVIDIA, I comment on it, or because people will ask me, like I said in session. So I don't really have this like list that I'm like, hey, let's go to these. But I will say, with the current activity, especially with the tariffs, I think people need to be a little extra careful around sectors or industries that are like tariff sensitive, right? Like automakers, obviously. If all those things get laid out, there's going to be this like kick up in price of a new car, right? Like we haven't seen before, or at least not in a long time. So that could affect their bottom line. But then again, if they move their, I think like Honda is moving their manufacturing to like Indiana or something, right? These changes all sort of like happen and offset each other and take time. Steel industry, I think they talked about a 25% tariff.
Yeah, they raised it. Yeah, they raised that today. I mean, looking at GM right now, it really hasn't gone anywhere. Ex U.S. Nice Steel really didn't go anywhere because of the tariff. So I'm not really seeing a big effect there. Hima.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not saying there's like an immediate. I'm just saying in the long run, those may have, those may be providing more opportunities as they go up and down with this news, right? In time. But let's see, I do have charts that like, again, students have asked me about recently. So let's say the Mag 7 or whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah.
Amazon, I mean, these have been tanking, Amazon, Apple, and everything else. But I do think that they're all getting closer to like a little bit of a breather. I don't know if that's a place you buy for the long term, but you might get a short-term move just for a bit of a recovery. It's not happening yet. I just think on the tech stocks, if you're not short yet, don't go short now. Wait for some sort of bump.
They took a big hit. I mean, like, my God, Amazon was up to 240. I mean, it's been hovering here at 200, 180 forever all year. That came back down a lot. Tesla, I mean, this stock was got destroyed, was at almost 500, dropped all the way down to 200, just about 200.
Yep.
I mean, there are definitely some big buys. The only ones I really didn't see to get hit too bad. I mean, Apple's taking a big hit right now all of a sudden, but it's not like down a lot. You know what I mean?
No, it's not. And they're all coming back to like, so one thing I say about anybody who looks at momentum, whether it's like, the MACD question or anybody using, that was Mishka, I think, stochastics or anything else, you have to look at a stock and look at not just how overbought it, oversold it is compared to like the usual, but how it is compared to itself. It's a version of relative strength. So for example, if you're like an Apple trader, And you look at this, you're, oh, okay, it's oversold, but also look at what was it like every time it came back to that same value and see what the market did. That's very insightful. I would say that for Tesla right now, look how oversold it is. But yeah, look at the last time. Again, it could be RSI, it could be anything else. Look at the last time it was at these levels. That ended up being a great buy, but it took like a month. You see that back here, right?
You think it's a good buy right now? I own it. I'm curious.
Oh, you own it? Oh, okay.
I just bought it yesterday, you know, but I bought TSLL because you know, I bought the ETF one because it was cheaper and it's obviously a big push. But what are your thoughts on that?
I think it has a little room for a bump, but I think until we get above, and I'll make my lines darker here, but until we get above this March 3rd high, I mean, the trend, just like the price trend, is still down.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's kind of like, that's my simple answer. Like maybe you get to $300 if we're lucky, but I don't know if it'll bounce that high. I think it might stop more around that 275 area, and then you have to see.
I'll take that.
You take that? Okay, I was gonna say, how long are you like in it for?
Well,
what's your plan?
My plans, I've just been following the momentum, and like my style is I just follow level 4. I just see orders out there, and with just Nvidia, I mean not with Nvidia, but with where is it, with Tesla?
Yeah.
If it gets past, there's a lot of orders out here right around 245. It just got filled.
Okay.
But 250, you know, is a big order. I'm not seeing anybody else after that filled in right now, but that's what I'm basically seeing.
Are you talking about, is that what's called like level 2 or level 3?
Yeah, level 3 and level 4 is what
level 3 and level 4. Okay.
Yeah,
so
level
you're looking
4.
at the action of buying and selling at the price levels. I remember that's your main.
Yeah, the high frequency trades that are out there, the algorithms, the dark pools, everything out there on the right of the chart. That's what I'm basically looking at.
Okay.
So right now there's like about 107,000 shares at 250, you know, right now. A couple of buyer, 90,000 at 240, 92 at like 235, you know, but it's at 250. It's really kind of holding it back. It got close to it this morning and at 10 o'clock, and then just kind of backed off.
And then back off there. Yeah.
So but I know that we're running out of time, and I really wanted to kind of touch about just one or two things with you, Hima. And I think a lot of people need help with this.
Sure.
People lose money in trading, especially now. You see it like we were living high right now. People were like, oh my God, break president, break high. Now the things are really backing off. Okay. And I know from you teaching a lot of people, most people come to us not because they're doing well, it's because they're doing bad. Majority of them, you know.
Sure.
It's like when you get a doctor, you go to sick. You don't need to go to the doctor. You go when you're sick. So for everyone that's listening right now, like if they are doing in a bad position, how would you advise them to deal with the emotions and deal with losses? Because a lot of people sell their winners too soon. They hold their losers too long.
Yeah.
What would you tell people to do after all these years of educating people that you find that deal with?
Yeah. I was going to say, that's a big question, but I will say there's two schools of people here who are in this category. So I'll speak to both. So there's the person who traded per their plan, whatever that is, and still suffered losses because things just went really extreme. And perhaps they were kind of waiting it out. They were like, no, I'm going to just kind of sit and let that pain happen. And it hasn't turned yet. If that's you, you probably should look at like what your account size is, what you were willing to risk for whatever these positions are, and be willing to like make that hard decision about, do I take the loss and regroup? Because you will be able to trade more easily if your head is clear of bad trades. I think that's really truly what happens. Then there's folks who are just like kind of throwing darts, right? Because they're learning and they're maybe getting in too soon. So they just like bought a few weeks ago because they thought with Trump being president, that's, Wall Street friendly and lots of things that are commonly known, but it didn't account for all of these actions and their effects. It would be the same answer. It would also, though, be you really need to come up with what is your max risk strategy in any scenario. So if you're a day trader, what's your max risk per an individual trade? Like you're willing to lose that much money and that's it. What's your max number of losses in a row in a day trading, right? Before you stop for the day. I hit that. It happens because I'm just like out of it.
I think a lot of people in here, they think we don't lose money. Right. I mean, we lose money, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, otherwise you still wouldn't be here. I mean, losing, I tell people it's a good thing because if you know why you lose, you're not going to do it again. It's like falling off a bike. You're going to fall and you're going to get hurt, but it doesn't mean you're never going to drive again or even, crash a car. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
so
And we have techniques to keep our losses from eating away at everything. That's the thing. Like I talk about accepting the risk. Like you
like,
have an
hey, that
X
ever
amount
happened to
of
you?
money.
That ever happened to you? Like, an experience that happened to you that you learned very valuable. That's why where you are
Oh,
today.
absolutely. Yeah.
Like what? Like, tell me an example. Like one
This is
example.
when I was early in. So this is going to be very like teenage girl sounding, but it's true, right? I was in my early 20s, learning trading from my dad. And, I was like starting to date a lot and stuff after college. And I was trading one afternoon and I was on like Messenger, like AOL or something with some guy I liked. I was in this great position to make a short trade on the ES. And I just got distracted because I was talking to somebody about planning a date, right? And in that moment, I missed the entry and I saw what I could have made. And I also had this experience where I didn't move my stop out of the way and I had a big loss. Like both of these happened when I was talking to friends while trading because I was young. Like I just didn't understand you shouldn't do that. And my dad wasn't like over my shoulder every second, right? He had a job, he had family, everything. Like at some point I was like doing this on my own. So I, after that, made a rule. Phone goes in do not disturb, doors closed. And for that hour and a half or
Doors
2 hours
closed.
I'm trading, like that's
The
it.
door's closed.
Doors closed, yeah. And like unless I mean, here it's just me and my husband, but back then it was like family, mother, siblings. I said, unless somebody's bleeding, do not bother me for this 2 hours. And then, it's just simple as that, even focusing and concentrating so you're able to see some of the setups. But God, I even remember the guy because I'm like, oh, I can't believe I did this. It wasn't my husband, thankfully. It was just like some guy. But you learn, right? And that's the thing. Like you said, with losses, you learn, and each of them should just be a lesson. So you don't keep making that mistake. You make new ones.
Mm-hmm.
Like in life, you learn, you make a mistake, but you don't make that same one over and over. So yeah, that's some what I would say now. But I also truly believe what we're seeing now in this weakness, it's not going to just keep going straight down. I just really believe that. I've never seen that happen where we hit a top and then we just plummet for like a year. That's very unlikely. We will get some relief. However, the way that relief and that recovery unfolds will tell us if we're all back in the clear for a little bit, or that's just some short covering, right? Like people who sold making their money and then boom, the bears come again. That's what I've seen at least.
That happened to me this past week. I did a couple of I'm live every morning, and I mean some people here that's where they came from. I'm live at 9 a.m. every morning, and last week we had a little bit of a rally, and I was up like 10% on my swing. I was up huge. I haven't been up that a long time. This is my swing, not my day trade, and I'm like, wow, this is great. So I go to lunch. I come back. Now I'm only down. I'm up 5%. I'm like, what the hell just happened? I never. I mean, if you could make, if you could be up 10% a year, on a swing trade, some people be ecstatic. I was up 10% a day, which is very rare. I was trained very conservatively, and all of a sudden I come back, and then all of a sudden at the end of the day, I'm down 1% from being up 10. So what I did is I got out, Hima. I got out of those positions, and then 3 days later, if I didn't take that 1% loss, right now it'd be down 20%. Wow. Like you see what happened to a lot of these stocks. I mean, like you're talking about Reddit. Reddit was at 240, went down to 150. I mean, there was a lot of amount. I had that position. I thought I bottom fished. I got it. So, like you just mentioned earlier, and I just want everyone to hear to say about it, it's okay to take a loss. Yeah. You know what I mean? You could just buy it back cheaper. Let me tell you a funny story. I just did a video yesterday, and I think you'll like this one. I do a lot of shorts, and I want to ask your opinion on this. If somebody came up to you and said, I didn't want to sell the stock because I want to pay the taxes on it, what would you tell them?
Get a new accountant. If somebody gave you that advice, that's ridiculous. Taxes. Okay. Like that gets me in the gut. You just got me in the gut. I'm like, okay.
Like, what's wrong with you? Like, are you serious?
Well,
like,
I don't usually.
You don't want to pay the taxes?
Yeah. Okay. So if you don't exit a position and you don't gain, right? You don't have like profit booked. None of this is real until you exit the trade.
Exactly.
So you are basically in like fantasy la la land if you don't want to exit trade because you don't want to pay taxes. That means you just want to live in this like, limbo. Like that to me is not a good way to go. And the sad thing is I find that accountants, like day-to-day accountants, and my sister's a CPA, so I'm not insulting the industry, but people who don't understand the markets, they give advice like that. Oh, Bob, don't, sell your position now because you did well this year and you don't want to pay the taxes on it. Well, But what if the market turns around and then it corrects and then you make less than you would have if you'd exited? I think
Right.
that's wild.
That's what happened with this person that I was talking to, because they asked me advice, and he had like Nvidia, and he had a huge profit in Nvidia, and he's like, "You think and I saw him a while ago. I saw him like 3 weeks ago and he's like, he goes, "Well, I don't want to sell because I don't want to take pay the taxes on it." Meanwhile, Nvidia went from 140, 145, went down to 101, and I'm like, okay, well, if you did sell it and you pay the taxes on it, and now you sell it today, you would have paid the taxes and you still would have kept a lot of money. So like, it's like so don't
I
ever
think
tell me to
people
do
don't
that.
understand like tax strategy, like not just about trading, but like there are a lot of things in life you can do that are completely legal, that are by the book, that help reduce your taxes. Like most of the IRS tax code is actually about ways to reduce your taxes, right?
Right.
The government wants us to do things so they don't have to do them. If you invest in real estate, you get tax deductions because great, you're providing housing. If you donate to charities, you get tax deductions because then you're supporting,
Yeah.
people can help themselves. Like there's countless ones.
There's so many
And
ways of getting around it.
there's no way around it. And if you do the work, you can do well and pay little taxes. And my husband and I are on the team of pay as little taxes as possible without risking going to jail. That's our philosophy. Like, we're not cheating, we're not stealing anyone, but we'll use all the rules, right? To minimize the tax burden so we can reinvest that in our life, in my business, in my trading, in our investing. Yeah. Wow. You got me. Yeah. Like I'm like sweating with that answer. That's
When I heard someone say that, because I hear it before and I just freak out. I'm like, who trained you? I'm like, who the hell who gave you the dumbest advice to ever say something so stupid? And excuse my French, but this is the dumbest question I ever heard. And it came up to me yesterday, and I just want to feel your thoughts on, because you deal with it all the time.
Oh no,
But
I
anyway,
get these things too. And usually, I mean, if it's like a social setting and I don't want to like start a fight, I just like, take a sip of my drink and just say, well, I don't know. But I just leave them alone and have a sidebar with them. But I think you gave the right advice and told them, listen, you can't think that way.
can't
Because
think that
the
way.
big profits are what carry your trading forward. That's what really makes your account grow. Like those big wins you get now and then. And then the small wins feed into that too. What you need to do is stay away from the big losses, and taxes is not a loss. You only pay tax if you made money.
Right.
So I don't get that.
I don't get it either.
Now I'm gonna have to make a
I
video
like these
about that.
metaphors. It's like saying, I hired a guy, but I hired somebody, but I want to fire him, because if I do, then I'm going to pay unemployment, and then I'm worried about getting sued. I'm like, so I'm just going to just keep him and pay him because he's going to drive your life miserable and destroy your life. I mean, I don't get your philosophy. Obviously, you don't want a business. So any business person here would know that.
Would know
That would
that.
be the least of their problems. I said, well, you know what? Maybe you should have had insurance. I already took care of that. But
Right.
trading, that's why you leave it to us to explain it to you. So with that said, Hima, if anyone wants to find out more about you, what could they do? Get your book, get your trial, whatever it is.
Yeah,
I know you've
for
been around
sure.
for a long time. What is it?
Yeah, absolutely. So we made a special link that y'all can get my momentum trading ebook that it describes what I do to manipulate the RSI. It's called the Winning RSI Playbook, and it sells on my website normally for like $14. But for your audience here, I would love to make sure they can get their hands on it for free. So keep that link up for a few days after the show, and so they can check that out. And they could go to my website, himareddy.com, like in general. If they want to see, I write blog posts about what I think about on the market. Explains whatever else I offer and do there. But yeah, they can just if they email us and they say Fausto sent me, they will get VIP treatments.
Good.
VIP.
Good.
Do you know today my husband was like, "What podcast do you have?" I said, "Fausto." He's like, "Oh, Pugliese." I was like, "Do you remember this from like 8
Your
years
husband's
ago?"
a great guy, great photographer too.
So he was like, "Oh yeah, I like Fausto." I'm like, "Me too. I'll talk to you after."
No, he was a great guy. It was great meeting both of you there down in Jacksonville, Florida, and stuff like that. Well, you got the link, everyone, up over there. Just click on that link and scan it. And then also, if you do want to come and join the show, we here live on the top right-hand corner. You got the free workshop. You can just take your phone, scan that QR code, and just make sure you like us and friend us. And leave a comment. If you're watching this as a recording, we'll have some shorts that are going to be made up from this. We're going to have the long version, and we'll be happy to send you Hima's contact information directly. And that's, there's nothing better than that. I mean, listen, you got to learn before you can earn, and that's where it all comes about. So, Hima, any last minute words, any last minute advice you want to give everybody about the market or what they should be doing to not blow up their accounts?
Again, kind of big questions, but I will say you don't have to be on my email list or anything to see what events I'm doing. If you just want to hear or be able to ask like this. So if you went to himareddy.com/events or you click the live events, it will show what I'm doing. Like today's podcast was on there. So I'm just sharing that for people who listen. You've been burned, maybe you're sitting with losses. Perhaps you're not ready to like invest in your education. I totally get it. I've been there, but you should keep learning and making sure you find a mentor who resonates with you. You obviously already have Fausto, which is awesome. Some of my folks are here today. Thank you for joining. And just like, don't be afraid to learn while you're, listen while you learn, right? And then implement when you're ready. So I'll be on this afternoon with my members. I'll be on other events coming up, so they can always check that out. And maybe Fausto will have me back if y'all, vote and call in.
And then we have the Cyber Expo coming up in was it May? We're definitely gonna have you back where you do a nice little workshop and look forward. Everyone loved having you. And like we tell everyone, you got to learn a little bit from everybody. You just can't be sold on one person. I tell everyone, listen, you might not like the way I look, you might not like the way I sound, wherever it is. You might like my style instead, but you got to try a little bit of everyone's stuff. And I always tell everyone, Hima, and you probably know this too. You probably tell everybody, if you're doing something more than a month to 3 months and you're not making money, it's like hiring someone. You got to let them go. So
cut it off.
Yeah, just get off the bandwagon. Like you just mentioned earlier, I love what you just said about indicators. The reason why they have it up there, because they bought it and they got it, they're like, I paid for it to make it work. No, it's not the way it goes. You know what? Sometimes you got to cut your losses. You know what? Marriage is great, but divorce is very expensive. So make sure you marry the right one.
Right. That's why dating exists, right?
Yeah, dating is good. So dating is very good. Listen to other gurus is good. But definitely do not do this on your own. But Hima, thank you so much for being here. Love having you. Great content. Everyone, thanks for being here. And like I said, just like us and friend us. You got Hima's link over there. You got my link on the top right-hand corner. Scan us. We'll look forward to seeing you all back here again. We'll see you back next week for our next episode here at Cyber Traders. And once again, happy trading, everyone, and trade safe.
Thanks, Fausto.